International break is done, which means football is back, which means fantasy Premier League is back. Frankie, this is where, if it wasn't for this type of content, this is where usually I would forget to do my team and then I get fed up with it. And this is where I give up for the entire season. So thanks to this series, it's made me think about my team and make sure I'm up and running for it this weekend. You need to have a good one because I had a little look at our private league, Frankie. 200 people in it, bang on 200. I'm 20th. You're 103, 106. You're one of those two anyway. I forgot which one. You're 100 and something. You need to fix up.
Mate, I've got a league with my 6-year-old and my 6-year-old's beating me. So it's not going well. And I'm not convinced I'm going to have a good week either. I'm looking at it. I'm struggling this year.
Tough fixtures this weekend.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I was debating rolling. I've got 2 free transfers as we speak right now. Debated rolling it onto next week, so I would have 3 next week. But there's one transfer I'm really tempted by. I've not pulled the trigger yet because I thought, you know what, I might just bounce the idea off Frankie. Now, this is my team going into the weekend, pre-potential transfer. It's the team that you've seen for the last 2 weeks. So I'm going to start Flecking against Man United because I think Man U are crap. But I think also Flecking he'll be busy. I think he'll have a few shots at him. The defense picks itself because I ain't playing Anderson against Villa and then Mosquera's out for ages. So it has to be Porto, Alexander-Arnold, Gabriel. My midfield, McNeil away to Ipswich, good fixture. Rodgers away to Fulham, tricky fixture. Mbeumo away to Man U, licking my lips at that one. And then Salah with a tricky one at home to Chelsea. Then my front three, I hate this as a West Ham fan, but I smell goals from that front three this weekend, Frankie. Haaland playing Wolves, Delap playing Everton, and Solanke playing West Ham. I think all 3 of them might be bagging over the weekend.
Wouldn't surprise me. I think very, very good chance. Yeah, I think your front 3 look very solid.
My potential transfer, you might snigger, right? So it's to take Semenyo out. So I'm a big fan of Semenyo, as you guys know that have tuned in. He's done all right for me, but they're at home to Arsenal. And then let me just grab the fixtures here. They've got, after Arsenal, they play Villa and then Manchester City. So it's 3 tricky games for Bournemouth, and it's possibly 3 games I'll leave him on the bench. So I'd rather transfer him out for the next 3 games and bring him back in if I have to. And the player I'm debating getting, and this is where people are going to snigger, but before you do, can I just remind you of Dwight McNeil? When I brought Dwight McNeil up, he scored a brace that weekend. And I don't like this player. Actually, I can't stand this player. He irritates me a lot. Adama Traore.
I knew exactly who you was going to say.
How did you know that? How did you know that?
I just did, because I know you don't like him. I know Gonzo's a big fan. I know you're not keen, but I actually looked at him earlier on and I was looking at a transfer out for Grealish. I would love to transfer Grealish out this week. And he was one that was on the radar. So, yeah, I knew exactly who you was going to say.
5.1 million, and he should have scored numerous goals against Man City, up against Villa. So it is a tricky one this weekend playing Aston Villa. But after Villa, they've got Everton away, Brentford at home, Palace away, Wolves at home. And then you've even got Tottenham, Brighton, Arsenal. But the 4 or 5 games after this weekend is quite favourable for Fulham. And I think he's playing well this season. I still don't like him as a player. And Man City shows why I don't like him as a player, because he should have had a hat-trick and didn't. But it's almost law of averages a little bit. He's going to create 3 or 4 chances a game and get 2 or 3 chances a game. All I need him to do is stick one away, and I'm happy. I'm really tempted, Frankie, at 5.1 million. Really tempted.
I think it's like I say, it was on the radar for an option for outing Jack Grealish and bringing him in. I think they're, as a team, you look at the stats, the chances that they're creating, everything about them just says it's not just him, but the team around him makes it a good choice. So, yeah, I think it's a very wise player to have on the radar. I think it came a week too early for me. I think if this was next week and he was playing Everton and I was looking at a transfer out for Grealish, I think I would have pulled that trigger and brought him in for Jack Grealish. So, just a week too early with Aston Villa. We've had a bit of an international break. Villa can be a bit hot and cold. I don't know how that's going to go for Villa, to be honest, but I expect it to be quite a tough game. I think it's going to be. They might cancel each other out, and I'll wait one more week.
Yeah, I think I might join you. I think that's why I haven't pulled the trigger yet, because even if I bring him in, if I just flick back to my team, even if I bring him in for this weekend, he's probably still going to be on the bench. I will still go with McNeil, Rodgers, and Mbeumo and Salah. So it feels a bit pointless using a transfer for somebody that's going to be sat on the bench. And granted, he's my first substitute, but I feel like I might just wait. If you brought in Liam Delap, like I told you to, well done. You got some points, unfortunately, against West Ham. But this weekend, Everton at home, then Brentford away, Leicester at home. I still think it's the right time. If you didn't get Liam Delap last week, you missed the chance. But I think there's still get him in now. I think Delap's a must-have. Score, or I don't know if he scored, but he looked really good for England under 21s during the international break as well. So he's a player banging form. Is there anyone on your watch list, Frankie? Let's take a look at your team first of all, actually, because you've obviously been debating doing some transfers. So talk us through your team, please.
Well, the man even done it in international duty, didn't he? Johnson again. While it was an absolute tap-in, he still managed to notch. The man's on fire. But Henderson in goal. If you've gone for Flecken, it was a toss-up between Flecken and Henderson. But Nottingham Forest are just, I'm just confident that they'll shut them out and to not give them too much of a chance. So, yeah, I've gone for Henderson. Guardiola I bought in a little while back. I'm happy with him. I think he'll come good eventually. And in there with Trent and Calafiori, them Guardiola and Calafiori could be my highest points returns this weekend. I fancy them both. So you got Saka in there. I mean, that little yellow mark against him, he's known for bouncing back. I expect him to start, but Arsenal are suffering. A few little injuries cropping up for them now. How good are Arsenal going to be? I'm not too sure. They might struggle the next couple of weeks. Grealish was a mistake. I should never have brought him in. I know that I fancied him to start, and he did start, but then he didn't get a return. Was a silly one, but just Man City got such good fixtures. I got caught in the trap of bringing Man City players in, and just because you look at them and think, there should be easy results, but you just never know who's going to play.
Yeah, he did all right for England, though, so he's in form.
Yeah, and that was the reason for choosing him over the likes of Doku, but Doku came on and got a goal. So it's really frustrating with City. You know that if Grealish has a poor 45 minutes, well, he can be hooked very quickly in the second half. So that's the problem with City. Johnson, I've been over the moon with. That was the right move at the right time, and lots of returns from him. Just hopefully he doesn't carry on that form this weekend. I'm quite happy for him to blank this weekend, so I can suffer him not getting me any points as long as my other players do. Luis Diaz, another big mistake. Should never have listened to my data analyst who works for me. He was badgering on about how he was the best Liverpool player of the moment and looked like the biggest danger threat from him, and this, that, and the other. The informed player. Well, since I bought him in, he's done absolutely nothing. So big mistake with Diaz. But I bought Vardy in pretty much for this fixture and for the next little run that he's got. So very hopeful with Vardy. Southampton, Nottingham Forest, and then Ipswich. I thought he might have got something against Bournemouth as well, but he didn't. But this next little run, if Vardy's going to have his last little party, then this is the start of it. So hopefully he does all right. And I'm all right with Nketiah. That hasn't paid off either recently, but Forest away. I'm expecting Nketiah to get me something. It might not be a goal, but certainly at least an assist this weekend. So yeah, I mean, I would love to make a few changes in there if I'm perfectly honest. If I had the free transfers available, Diaz, Grealish, and Saka would probably all be on their way out.
How many have you got available?
Only one. I used them all up last week. I wild carded. I had 3 free transfers and I used them all. That was my little plan. And it hasn't worked out for me at all. So very frustrating at the moment. And normally I'm sitting here and I'm quite confident with, picking a player that I think, that he can go and do the business this weekend. It's just so hit and miss at the moment. I'm really striker options so limited this year. The midfield options, again, Saka. I know people are saying he's had this fantastic start and everything else. I'm still not 100% convinced by him. And again, for England, I'm not convinced by him playing on that right-hand side for England. I thought Jared Bowen was very, very hard done by being left out, especially in that Greece game that's just gone by. I thought that was crying out for a player like Jared Bowen, somebody who could attack when we were going forward and make things happen, but someone who can cover Trent when he goes on his little walkabouts. And I think Bowen would have worked hard to cover Trent at right back. So Bowen, do you know what? That's the other man who I'm very tempted to bring in, Gio. West Ham's got to go on a bit of a run. I fancy us in this next period before the international break. And if anyone's going to do it for us, Jared Bowen would be the man. So he might find his way into my team after this weekend as well.
While I haven't done Bowen in FPL, I'm just going to go off a tangent a little bit. It goes in line with your thinking here. On Paddy Power, you can do Opta's man of the match. So it's purely statistics. It's got nothing to do with the commentator award and man of the match. It's purely numerical. And Jared Bowen to be man of the match in the Spurs game is 45-1.
That's crazy.
So if he can get a goal and an assist or a couple of goals or we win, there's a good chance Bowen will have a high rating. And West Ham have had 2 man of matches so far this season. So 7 league games, 2 man of matches. Bowen, one of them, which was against Ipswich, and Thomas Souček was the other. Spurs have had 3 man of matches in their fixtures. Maddison, and I can't recall who the other ones were. James Maddison was definitely one of them. But there's only 2 players with a higher rating so far this season than Jared Bowen. And Jared Bowen, I would suggest, has had quite a quiet start to the season at West Ham. Yet he's got an average rating of 7.22. And there's only 2 players with a greater one at Spurs, one being Maddison. And for the life of me, I can't recall. The other one must be Brennan Johnson, given his recent form. Yeah. So, 45-1 for Jared Bowen to be Opta's man of match against Spurs. And I've had a few quid on it, Frankie. I'm
not surprised. End of the day, only 22 players start. So
and there's some you can rule out straight away unless there's something like players like Edson Alvarez. They need to probably score a goal or something to get that, and it's not going to happen. And Wan-Bissaka, it's easy to eliminate a lot of the players. Like your goalkeepers have got a good chance because they're very busy. And your attackers have got a good chance because they're scoring and getting assists, which really contribute towards your total. Funny enough, Thomas Souček is 70-1. Now, bear in mind, we've only had 2 man of matches. Souček's one of them.
He could easily have a smash and grab moment.
He just needs
a goal.
But also, he does a lot of like clearances and interceptions, which contributes towards your overall rating. So Souček's our 3rd highest rated player so far this season in the Premier League at West Ham in terms of statistics. There you go. I agree. Bowen might be due a little bit of a run. It's just I just like my team at the minute. I've got no budget to have a little bit of a wiggle with my cheaper alternatives in midfield. You mentioned you were looking at bringing in some players. Is there anybody that was on your watch list, bar Adama Traore?
I mean, that was the one because I was looking at midfielders this week. So I didn't really look at defenders because I'm quite comfortable there. And I didn't really have too much looking around of strikers. So no, if I'm honest, there wasn't anyone who really popped up. And when you look at sort of, I know the traffic light system isn't the best read at all, but you sort of had a look through that and saw, is there any teams that are going to have a nice little easy run over the next few weeks? There isn't much that stands out. And that's why I'm not confident, Gio. I've had nothing that I've sat there and gone, do you know what? That's a little coup there. So,
the teams that stand out are the ones that are also green for other teams. So like Ipswich have got a good run, but also when teams play Ipswich, they're also green for them as well. So it's a difficult one to really nail, because I was debating Leif Davis to bring in Leif Davis, who 4.5 million. Ipswich might get a couple of clean sheets at last, and he's still creating a lot of chances because he takes their set pieces as well. So could we see him picking up a couple of assists in the next couple of fixtures for Ipswich? Everton at home, Brentford away, Leicester at home. It's 3 nice fixtures to get your teeth into, but it's such a short-term pick, and I don't mind doing it for a striker. I don't mind bringing in a striker for 3 games and then intending on selling him. Not so much for a fullback, and not so much for a fullback at a newly promoted side. I think that's really sort of devalues the transfer a little bit. So I'm sticking with my team. I might transfer out Semenyo, but at the minute haven't pulled the trigger. Everton also have a nice run. Away to Ipswich, home to Fulham, away to Bournemouth, away to West Ham, home to Brentford. So there's some nice fixtures. If you fancy any Everton players, and Dyes look quite good. Calvert-Lewin, he's done okay this season, all things considered. I still think I've got the better player though in Dwight McNeil, but maybe an Everton defender might not be the worst shout. It's just trying to find the ones that can potentially get you attacking returns. It's the same with Nottingham Forest. They've got a nice little run. Palace at home, Leicester away, West Ham at home. Even Newcastle at home's not that bad this season. But who do you bring in? Anya, is that who you bring in? Not sure. So because of my doubt, I think I'm just going to stick with what I've got this week and hopefully continue creeping up the little Geo Frankie League. I'm sitting 20th at the minute. I've got my sights on the Champions League spots. Anything you'd like to add, Frankie, before we disappear?
No, not really. I think, well, I've got no like players that I'm looking at necessarily. Just for me, the avoid is Arsenal at the moment. I think Arsenal are going to go on a tough little run. I know they've got Bournemouth this weekend, then they've got Liverpool, then they've got Newcastle at St James's Park. Some real tricky ones there. A few injuries creeping in. This is the sort of times where you either show that you're title contenders or not, and maybe it's a bit of hope more than it is me actually thinking it's going to happen, but I'd like to see him have a couple of little slip-ups. But
this might surprise you. Arsenal obviously playing Bournemouth this weekend, and I think it's fair to look at last season because both managers were there last season. There's not too much has changed in the way of their squads. What do you think this, without looking, if you know, well done, but if you don't know, what do you think the aggregate score was last season for both games, Bournemouth, Arsenal?
Off the top of my head, aggregate score,
surprised me.
I would go 4-2 Arsenal.
7-0 Arsenal.
Wow.
A 4-0 hiding and a 3-0 hiding. Yeah, I thought there might have been a draw in there or something. Yeah. I quite like Bournemouth, but no, they gave them 2 whoopings. So maybe the way Bournemouth play just suits the way Arsenal play a little bit, because some teams can be quite low block, but I think Bournemouth they don't mind coming out and playing, and I think that maybe suits them. Anyway, Frankie, as we wrap it up, would you like to just tell people how to enter our league?
Well, yeah, we've got the code on the screen now. So if you want to join the league, you can go on to your little settings within the leagues and cups, join league, and then you can put in the league code, which is DQ0E52.
Thank you very much. If you've enjoyed this video, please do drop a like on it. If you've got any questions for next week's episode, pop them in the comments below. Let us know the team you've got in mind for this weekend, any players you brought in for this weekend, maybe anyone that's just on your watch list. You haven't pulled the trigger yet, but you can be keeping an eye on seeing how they get on this weekend. Let us know in the comments below. Myself and Frankie will catch up with you next week. But Frankie, thank you very much. And I hope you have an okay weekend on Fantasy League. Not a good one, just an okay one.
I got nothing in that podcast, Joe, but I still beat you last week, albeit by 1 point. So I'll hold on to that.
Right, catch you in a bit.